On today's show, we've got a real Ricky Rubio update. That and more, all coming up today.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
All right, the music you heard on the way in is from our friends at Astro Radio. Check them out on Apple Music or Spotify. Thanks again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. I'm Chris Manning. I cover the Cavs and NBA at large for a place like UPROXX and SB Nation's Fear the Sword. That man over there is Evan Dammarell. He is primarily the proprietor of Down Euclid. First segment today, Ricky Rubio. We've got an update on him. Evan, why don't you inform people what JB Bickerstaff had to say at Thursday's practice, what is going on with Rubio, and what we know about when and how, and what his progress currently looks like right now.
So a few days ago, Bickerstaff shared with the media, I believe, after one of the Cleveland's road games, that Rubio was going to be meeting with team doctors as well as probably just doctors as well. In general, that will be kind of consulting him on what the next steps are in his ACL recovery. We are getting close to about a month. By the time this episode posts, we will be 14 days away from when he tore his ACL. It was December 23rd when that happened. So the Cavs are getting close. I think they're kind of anticipating his return. I think Rubio is as well during media day. He says he wishes he could play in November, but realistically that wasn't an option. But the update is he is starting to ramp up his production. More often than not, you'd see Rubio getting work into like Isaiah Mobley or one of the bigs or some of the coaches just doing one-on-one stuff. But everything seems full steam ahead. Like his recovery is going well. Bickerstaff did say that he will start doing 5-on-5 and they'll ease him into things, which is one of the major steps, just dealing with contact, dealing with just actual like full speed play, just making sure where he's at physically. They're not going to like throw him out into the wolves. So I'm not going to say like, let's say because the Cavs have a shoot around tomorrow against the Sacramento Kings. Let's say like they do some 5-on-5 action and they throw Rubio into it. That doesn't mean Rubio is going to play that night against Sacramento or Saturday night against Oklahoma City. But this is an encouraging sign, at least, that he is getting back. And we'll talk about more about what Bickerstaff said, but just at the onset, like I think realistically speaking, like there's not a set timeline yet, but it feels more likely that it maybe is end of December, mid-January at the latest, that he does return to the floor and becomes like that pseudo 6th, 7th, 8th man for the Cavs.
I still think we're going to get to January. Like there's not a reason to rush it. It has been very signaled from the beginning that because they signed him to this multi-year contract, that this isn't just going to be a, hey, let's get him out now, let's burn through what he can give us right now, and we'll he has to figure it out for himself. Like they signed him to a multi-year deal, I believe a partial guarantee in that last year. So like there is like this is a multi-year commitment from Cleveland to maximize what Rubio is. According to Bickerstaff, when asked kind of about like what it'll take for him to as he continues to recover, quote, it's the conditioning in 5-on-5. It's being able to be bumped in 5-on-5 and then being able to react without hesitation. It's the transitions of defensive slides to running up the floor and all of those things we don't do in everyday life that are basketball necessary. He's got to get to a place where he's comfortable with that. It's too important and he's too important to rush it, end quote. So they will, 5-on-5 stuff will happen. Like the real more intense stuff will happen when they actually have an actual practice, obviously amid the grind of an NBA season. Sometimes it is hard to find times to get practice in, but that will be when they do get one in and there is 5-on-5 work, Rubio will need to participate in that. I still think January is kind of the likely part. But Evan, I think the more interesting question as we start to think about this, we'll see what the rotation looks like. That'll be something we certainly discuss, as we get closer. I'm curious to see like how they ramp him up, because I think based on if we kind of think about how they might approach this and what is being said to read between the kind of in between the sentences a little bit, I would be surprised if he just comes back and is like thrown right into the deep end. Like I think like 15 minutes to start is probably likely. I think you're going to see him take some minutes away from Mitchell and Garland and ease their burden a little bit. But I think even when he comes back, I still feel like it's going to be a slow burn with him to kind of get him back into the flow fully.
Yeah, that's kind of more or less what I was waiting to talk about. Is JD did mention the fact that, like, listen, realistically speaking, you're not going to see the same Ricky Rubio. You may see bursts of what he was last season to start the year with, like, that, quote unquote team or Spanish national team Ricky Rubio, but, like, realistically speaking, Bickerstaff said he's not going to be playing 30 to 35 minutes a night this season. Like, he is going to be a guy who spells Garland and Mitchell, maybe gets Karis LeVert kind of out of this weird funk he has going if he's still around by the time Rubio is back on the second unit as well. Pairs nicely with Kevin Love when Kevin Love is back from his current back ailment and just kind of finds regularity in the offensive flow for Cleveland. And maybe he helps Isaac Okoro too. Like, Ricky Rubio is not going to be the biggest X factor for the Cavs, but he will be a factor for them at the end of the day, where he will be involved in setting things up on the offense, just kind of being that third guard that the Cavs kind of need. Because, I mean, I appreciate Donovan Mitchell being a good teammate, but he said, like, Hollow Neto could play 30, 35 minutes for the Cavs and do everything right for them. I think he could play 30, 35 minutes and he could do a lot of things right on offense, but I don't think defensively it's there for Neto. But Rubio is just a wired different player, and like you said, he needs to kind of just get through the bump and grind of 5-on-5 contact. And I think it's also just important to note that, like you said, the Cavs aren't really keen to rush him back, and that's a Bickerstaff really just stressed again. Like, it's similar to the aspect of Jared Allen just dealing with so many ailments at once, whether it was the ankle, or whether it was the back, whether it was the non-COVID related illness. So the Cavs just kind of employ the strategy period with their players where, and Bickerstaff said it, like, they try to prioritize player safety and player health. And like you said, the Cavs have a 3-year investment in Ricky Rubio, and they will obviously bring him along slowly. Like, Bickerstaff more or less said the same thing. Like, again, it's not going to be the first time he does 5-on-5. All right, let's just throw him back out there. It's going to be several sessions of that. And I think it's encouraging to see Rubio's possible return coming sooner instead of later, because he is traveling with the team, which means, like, he is still within their ecosystem and practicing with them, even when they're on the road and everything. So, like, that's obviously a clear indicator. Like, they're starting to ramp up his production a little bit and get him ready to return to the floor, but there's still no, like, clear target of when it's going to happen or, like, a definitive set date. And again, you shouldn't or can rush this kind of thing, because you don't want to, like, ruin what you have this season. And Ricky Rubio is supposed to come in and improve things and make things better for you. So obviously avoiding that and causing him and rushing him to be injured again is, like, what you want to avoid the most with him.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you're at games and you see, like, he'll sometimes get into work pre-game, that's pretty common as guys are ramping back up. And look, the other thing I would say about this that would make me feel somewhat optimistic, somewhat encouraged about, like, how this will work. Like, this isn't a situation where they sign someone coming off an injury who they're expecting to play a relatively, a role of some size, of some note, that doesn't have familiarity with the group. Like, this isn't like a blind risk that they took. I think, like, because he played with Mitchell in Utah, because he was so successful with Garland and a bunch of these guys last year, because you see him as a guy that played with Kevin Love, because he understands the principles of what JB Bickerstaff's going to ask him to do in defense. Obviously, there are going to be tweaks. There are going to be adjustments because this is a new season, because Mitchell changes things for this team, correct? Like, that's just the reality of it. But I think if you're Bickerstaff and you're this team, or you're a fan of this team, and you look at this, I think, like, the acclimation process, like, there's going to be some bumps because, like, he's coming off of an ACL tear and he's over 30, and, like, it's the second ACL tear in his leg. But in terms of, like, him knowing what to do and, like, also just understanding what he's going to be asked to do, I don't have a lot of concerns with that. It's just how fast does he get up to speed from a fitness standpoint, from a productivity standpoint. Those are all my questions versus the other thing. Evan, we do have some more injury news to discuss on after the break. We'll talk about Kevin Love, Donovan Mitchell, and Dylan Windler, who, is alive. But first, going to tell everyone about our friends at LinkedIn. Now, today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. All it takes is filling out the right information and clicking a few buttons, and you'll be searching for that next great team member. Then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. Finding the right team member is paramount to ending the year strong, and you need the right tools to do it. LinkedIn is that tool. It is why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, we're back here on the Locked On Cavs podcast. Chris Manning, Evan Dammarell here with you on this December 9th. All right, Evan, let's go in order. Kevin Love out Friday with lower back soreness. He leaves the game against the Lakers, runs back to the locker room, doesn't come back. He's going to be out. Here's I think what matters with this. Obviously, I think we've talked a lot about how important Love is to this team. I think like he's probably someone that I think there's some interest on both sides to extend that partnership. We'll see where that goes at the end of the year. But in the moment right now, there's no Dean Wade, who's out with that shoulder sprain. I think this maybe means Mamadi Diakite maybe gets some minutes again. We'll see how that goes. He was not good the last time he played. We'll see how Lamar and Okoro look. They are just kind of in a weird spot now where like you have these two stretchy, one guy who's like a real elite stretchy guy and one who's kind of like just an okay stretchy guy who does other stuff for you, that are now both out, and the spacing is going to get a little more cramped now with Love out, and we'll see how long that's going to be. I kind of wonder if he doesn't play in either of these games, just considering it is a back-to-back and all of that. They're going to miss some shooting, I think, and I think you will feel not having Kevin Love and Dean Wade, particularly this weekend. That's where my brain when this first came through the wire.
Yeah, that's where my mind went to, just because there's no Dean Wade. He's out for at least a month due to it, or possibly longer due to that left AC joint sprain. Kevin Love was out, did not practice today because of the back injury. It was a rehab day for him, according to JB Bickerstaff, which means he just got work done, just like on some like maybe deep tissue massages. I don't know the terms and semantics of it, but yeah, I think you're going to see more Diakite. You're going to see more. A lot more Lamar Stevens. You're going to see plenty of Jetty Osman minutes, Isaac Okoro minutes. I think maybe even Isaiah Mobley could crack the rotation if the Cavs are like that desperate for some big man depth. You're going to see a lot of Robin Lopez and maybe Halu Neto as well. Like the Cavs have to dig deep, probably lean super heavily on their key players in Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, and Allen, Evan Mobley and Allen at the end of the day, and just maybe ride this wave against a very good Sacramento Kings team and then a not so good but still scrappy Thunder squad. So you can go 2-0 on this weekend and then shift your focus to a bit of not a West Coast road trip, but a Texas road trip where they go to San Antonio and Dallas before they come home and play Dallas again on Saturday. And their Friday opponent is escaping me right now. But either way, that's the Pacers. So they have a little bit of an odd schedule. It's a little bit weird because the Cavs have numerous back-to-backs on Friday and Saturday for the month of December, so it's not advantageous if you're a player trying to recover and rehab. It's not advantageous if you're JB Bickerstaff because you got to lean so heavily on some guys and you might gas them out before the month is even over, and it's a tricky situation. JB Bickerstaff was asked about this today during media availability after Thursday's practice, and he was asked, is it frustrating to deal with this? And he's like, it's just part of coaching in the NBA at the end of the day. Like, yeah, it sucks. You wish you had a fully healthy squad every night, but you have to be realistic and realize, like, guys are going to have aches and pains, and some guys are going to be out and not be 100%, but no one's truly 100%. And more than anything, I say this a lot, but, like, the Cavs kind of having to deal with these injuries now and hopefully having the luxury of good health towards the end of the season is a little bit more paramount than maybe trying to grind out 2 wins over the Sacramento Kings and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then the Mavericks, the Spurs, the Pacers, and the Mavericks again next week and things like that. Like, you have to kind of be cognizant of it on a game-to-game basis, but also look at the big picture, and it's like it's not going to create your season if you drop 1 or 2 or 3 of these games in the upcoming 2 weeks or so, but it does suck because there's a lack of shooting if you're Cleveland, and a team that is overly reliant on Donovan Mitchell kind of bailing them out from the three-point line and ditto for Darius Garland is really going to be relying on those two over the next 2 games for sure.
Then you have the Donovan Mitchell news. He is questionable with right lower leg soreness. We'll see, if he plays or not. You probably won't find out until the starting lineup actually goes up on Friday night against the Kings, because JB Bickerstaff will get asked about this, then he'll say he's questionable.
Yeah, he'll say he's questionable. And, like, it is worth noting. I noticed it for the first time Wednesday night against the Lakers, or Tuesday night, rather, against the Lakers, but Chris has noticed it a few times, and other people have too, that Mitchell wears a boot when he's on the sideline with, like, to kind of just rest and rehab his ankle. Not a boot, but, like, his ankle's, like, wrapped up and trying to, like, ice it.
Yeah, boot would signify something much more severe. That is not.
Well, when I visualize it, it's like when those guys wear, like, those cryogenic cooling, like, pants on the sideline sometimes, like LeBron does.
Yeah. when you say the word boot, that puts into my head the ankle sprain.
Rewind. He had his ankle iced up, so he's still kind of dealing with that issue that he has been dealing with since the Celtics game when they won in overtime at home, or like it's been a nagging injury. And if the Cavs can afford to maybe rest Donovan at points this season, like I think that's advantageous for your deep playoff run. And again, it's not the end of the world if you just chalk up an L to the Kings or the Thunder, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't impact your standing too much in the Eastern Conference and in the Eastern Conference race. And I think, again, you'd rather have Donovan Mitchell upright and healthy towards the end of the season versus trying to maybe force him to play 35, 40-plus minutes against the Kings and the Thunder when you can maybe give him the night off, let him rest, rehab, and recover, and then just maybe throw Darius Garland to the Wolves a little bit and just kind of say, like, all right, Darius, it's like last year. We need you to put the offense on your back for the all 48 minutes.
Yeah, I wonder if like the Thunder game maybe is the one you did for, but we'll see how that goes. And did you see, by the way, Donovan Mitchell having a little fun at the expense of Jordan Clarkson?
No.
Did you see this?
I did see the Jazz want to extend JC, though, so happy for him.
Yeah, shouts to my Lululemon-sponsored king, Jordan Clarkson. But Jordan Clarkson had that flagrant foul the other night, and then he got into that like fighting stance people were making fun of as like a Street Fighter thing, where he's like standing like this, like squared up, and Donovan like tweeted a gif like making fun of him. JC for that split second is the tweet. You can go find it on his Twitter. It was but like a very Donovan Mitchell fun on Twitter. One of the few good tweeters as far as players go.
I was gonna say I'm a phenomenal tweeter. My Twitter game is on fleek. It doesn't piss off anyone. I just subject you to my torment. Everyone likes to Locked On Cavs tweets where I just post you packing up and then I post the scoreboard. So it's great stuff. Great stuff, man.
Anyway, the other injury news is that Dylan Windler is making some progress. Evan, what's going on with Dylan Windler?
So I shout him out a lot, but friend of the program, Danny Cunningham, and I are walking onto the practice court today, and I saw Dylan Windler. He's got to pay us at this point. Like, this isn't every episode thing. Dan, you owe us some money. You should at least take me to see Top Gun. That you should do. That's fair, but I saw Dylan Windler putting up it was just free throws, it was standstill stuff, and I caught a quick video of it. But I asked JB Bickerstaff like, how's he doing, and he's like, he's progressing slowly, is how Bickerstaff put it, and he's trying to get back to just being in playing shape. I think that's the first big thing for Dylan Windler, but it's encouraging at least to see him back out there. He had ankle braces on both ankles, and he was just shooting free throws with the coaches, and he was shooting them initially with Darius Garland, Robin Lopez, and I believe Evan Mobley. Then Karis LeVert switched spots with him, but he's progressing slowly. I asked, like, he's trying to get back like to becoming physically available for the Cavs. Like, I don't know if you can really reliably say like, yeah, he's going to be a rotation player, because I know he was like, in the conversation for the starting 3 spot, but like, let's just be honest, Dylan Windler's career is just kind of tragic and oft injured. And if I think he can show he's healthy, if you're the Cavs, you're like, oh shoot, we have a little bit more of maybe a trade asset where we can squeeze a little bit of more blood out of this stone than we maybe thought we could. But yeah, it was encouraging to see him at least on the floor. Like, I had to do a double take. I was like, oh wait, who the heck is that?
Yeah, he gets just he's made money, all of that stuff.
I empathize with the mental toll this is taking on him. It has to be exhausting that you have to work your butt off constantly to recover from injury just to deal with another minor setback that derails everything for weeks or months on end. Like, that has to be so frustrating. And I think about Andrew Luck a lot. Like, that's why he retired, because he just couldn't handle being hurt all the time.
Dylan Windler misses his whole rookie year. Played 31 games in his second year, played 50 games in last season. This is a guy that has played 81 career games, and he's in his 4th season, and it just has never worked for him. Like, over and over and over. Like, I will, honestly, I think more than I would like to admit about, like, standing in that. It was like me, you, and Kelsey Russo from The Athletic, and maybe Spencer Davies. It was at least me, you, Kelsey, and I.
It was the 3 of us, because he grabbed my badge.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, you work for Meta? And I was like, if he starts coming to NFTs, I'm going to throw myself into under a table. But he was talking about how he felt healthy, and he was like really like happy about feeling healthy, and then he just hasn't been healthy. Just a real bummer for Dylan Windler. All right, we'll be back after this one more break, but a reminder, I want to thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. It's the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. After this, what to watch for between the Cavs and the Kings and the Cavs and the Thunder. All right, last segment, Locked On Cavs podcast. Chris Manning, Evan Dammarell. Evan, let's start with Cavs Kings. We'll do 5 minutes on this rematch of a game that happened on that Cavs West Coast road trip. Evan, going back and looking at the box score for that, looking at some of the numbers from that, looking at a couple clips from that, I think what I'm watching here is obviously the health stuff. We'll see what happens with Mitchell. We'll see if they get all the spacing they might need. But that was a bad defensive performance for the Cavs. The Kings had an offensive rating of almost 130 in that game. That is well above what the Cavs have actually been for the season. That is notable. This was just a really bad defensive performance from the Cavs. The Kings in that game shot 77% at the rim. That's really good. That's really efficient. Yeah. And the Cavs really struggled in late crunch time there. So let's see what that looks like. Let's see how they defend Sabonis this time. Let's see how De'Aaron Fox, it is worth noting, is listed as questionable for this game. So we'll see if he even plays. But this is a Kings team with a top 5 offense. This is not like your father's Kings. Light the beam. Let's go. It's going to be a fun one.
This Kings team rules. Like, they're so fun to cover. Like, I'm envious of the friend of the program, Jordan Christmas, and my personal friend, Jordan Christmas, that he covers them quite closely for the local radio station in Sacramento. But, like, they're a lot of fun, I think.
And, shout out Matt George from Locked On Kings as well if you want some Kings insight.
But, like, JB Bickerstaff was asked about this on Thursday because he has, like, a 15-20. He was on... Because Mike Brown was on Bernie's coaching staff way back when, and JB's like, I've known Mike Brown since I was 13 years old, and like they've been close since then. He's just like, Mike wasn't having fun coaching Lakers, and he could tell watching on the sideline Mike wasn't having fun coaching Lakers. Like, he said Mike refound his love coaching the Warriors, being an assistant coach on Steve Kerr's coaching staff of the Warriors, but like he's generally having fun in Sacramento again. He's like, you can tell it's trickling down to the rest of this team. Like, this Kings team is fun. Like, De'Aaron Fox is fun. I love Sabonis. Harrison Barnes is probably going to be a trade candidate for a lot of teams. I just don't see the Kings really selling on him. Like, I had a lot of questions about Sacramento trading Tyrese Haliburton to Indiana, but like clearly it's worked out for both parties involved, and we'll see how it pays off long term. But this Kings team's fun. Like, they're fun 1 through 15. They have Matthew Dellavedova on your roster just for the vibes at that point. So we'll see what happens. They did lose to the Bucks the other night. And I don't know if folks watched that game, but like the Cavs struggled with Milwaukee too, and I think the Kings struggled a little bit with the Bucks as well. But the Cavs should have an interesting matchup against Sacramento, especially if they are down Donovan Mitchell and they are down like key guys like Dean Wade and Kevin Love, and then obviously Ricky Rubio is recovering from his ACL tear too. So it's going to be a different kind of matchup, I assume, because it's a shift in home space, and the Cavs are the best home team in the NBA. I wonder if the Kings will get their second win ever at Rocket Mortgage, or the team to get the second win ever at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse this season. But it should be a fun game at the end of the day. I'm missing it due to personal reasons. Chris will be there. I wish I could attend this one, but I'll be there Saturday for the Thunder game. But this game against Sacramento should be a lot of fun, and it's just always cool to see Mike Brown doing cool things again, just because you talked about this on Thursday's show. I would say he's the second or third best coach in franchise history.
Yeah, this is something an idea I scrapped us doing just because like there was enough with the Rubio stuff and the other injury stuff to kind of not have to milk a segment. But I mean, he's very much one of the most impactful coaches in Cavs history. Obviously has like the thing with the Warriors, that's like kind of like a funny wrinkle in that. But if you go to like all-time wins for regular season wins, he's second all-time, only behind Lenny Wilkins. He's went 305 and 187 as Cavs head coach. He has the second best winning percentage in Cavs history. Evan, without looking, do you know who has the best winning percentage in Cavs history as a head coach?
I'm just gonna throw a name out there. Does it have to be a permanent head coach? Or
just give me a guess. Just guess. Permanent head coach. David Blatt.
Oh.
David Blatt has a winning percentage of 67.5. Yeah. Ty Lue is over 60%, but yeah.
So if we had to like break down like a quick tier list, like number 1 is Ty, and then I think you can make a conversation between Lenny or Mike for 2 or 3. And then after that, it's a bit of a wide open field for me at that point. But like in terms of impactfulness, Mike was huge for this Cavs team. Like, yeah, you can give a lot of credit to LeBron, but Mike Brown's teams were systematically designed to like suck the life out of you on defense, and they were flat out dominant at points. And I don't think LeBron is cooking up all those defensive schemes and plans. It's just Mike focused on the defense and just kind of turn the offense to LeBron and let LeBron dribble and figure out the plays himself.
Yeah, I'm just happy for him on like a human level, just because this is a guy who gets fired when the Cavs are trying to keep LeBron that summer. LeBron leaves for Miami anyway. Ends up coaching the Lakers. That was an absolute debacle and not really his fault. Then he comes back to the Cavs, and then he gets fired when the Cavs like bring back LeBron. So like then he has long come with the Warriors. He finds joy. He's done a lot of really good work with the Nigeria national team, and the national stage. And I'm happy he's succeeding in Sacramento. Evan, okay, let's go to Saturday. The thing I cannot wait to watch for in this game is, Mitchell and Garland showdown versus SGA would be up there. We'll see, if Mitchell plays and whatever, or if the Cavs rest and one in the second night of the back-to-back. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is having like an incredible season.
Yeah.
And how the Cavs guard him, how they approach defending him as this big guard who is so good at getting his looks off, so good at maximizing his space, just having like... So truly, like he's having just one of the best seasons of anyone in the league, and it's not on a good team. This is a Thunder team that is not the best, but like this is a guy that is like in terms of, you look at the analytics, like he's having a season that is like, in terms of expected plus minus dunks and threes, like him, and he's right up there with Mitchell. He's having like one of the very best seasons of anyone in the league this year. And how the Cavs guard a guy like that, to me, will be really fun. This is a game where, like, if Isaac Okoro, like, is going to earn some potential, earn some trust, earn something. I guess that might be an Okoro game if he can play well against Shai. He's not going to stop him, obviously, but he's kind of a guy that I would look to maybe get some run there. But if he obviously doesn't start, or maybe someone sits and he does start or whatever. But how they defend him, what that looks like, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, it is interesting because, like I said, the Thunder aren't great. They're in last place in their division, but before they lost to the Grizzlies the other night, they had won 3 in a row. They beat the Hawks, the Wolves, and the Spurs, with the Spurs and the Wolves win maybe not being super impressive, but like that Hawks win kind of being pretty good just before DeJounte Murray goes down with an injury. But I am interested to see how they play. Like I'm bullish on this Thunder team. Like I think they're weird. I wish Chet was playing because that'd be a fun defensive matchup for like Evan Mobley and Jared Allen to handle with. But like, you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you have Josh Giddey, who's also really fun. You have Poku, who's just interesting because he's just so massively large. You have Jalen Williams and Jalen Williams, both are really fun. You have Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. The Thunder have done just a really good job assembling like a lot of fun, interesting talent that it could be a bit of a fight for the Cavs, especially if they are down Donovan Mitchell, or if they are out, like maybe let's say like Darius Garland gets a rest night or something too. Like this could be interesting. And selfishly, just as a guy who like enjoys watching basketball, hot take for this podcast, I'm sure for some folks, but I would like to watch Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Donovan Mitchell kind of go blow for blow with one another on offense, because it'd be fun to watch just two dynamic guards like hitting their apex this early into the season, just go back and forth with one another. And SGA is just like an interesting matchup in general because he is a bigger guard and does just like do a lot of crazy things. It is still wild to me that he got drafted so late by the Clippers and then ended up being the key piece that got them the Clippers Paul George. But it's fascinating to see how the Thunder are building. I wish Chet was available, like I said. They'll be really fun next season as well when they have Wembanyama as well. So you have Chet at the 4, Wemby at the 5, and Poku at the 3, and then just do weird stuff with SGA at the 1 and Giddey at the 2. So I don't know. This Thunder team is cool. Their branding stinks, though. I wish they would update that. But it should be a fun game, and this should be a game where the Cavs kind of come to work a little bit more seriously and ready to play, because like the Thunder aren't just going to lay down and let the Cavs beat them.
Yeah, they have a lot of like good players. A note about Shai, just in terms of if you haven't watched him this year, aren't super familiar with what he kind of does, where he's going to take a lot of, he gets to the rim a ton, does a lot of mid-range stuff, doesn't take a ton of threes. So this is a guy you have to deal with his rim pressure, you have to deal with his ability to get into those spaces and create for others and do his impact by getting inside and dicing teams up. And without, he doesn't need this elite three-point shot to do. He's a 33% three-point shooter on the year, 34% of non-corner threes. he's not like breaking you that way. He's breaking you with length, with dribbling, with skill. Like he's so fun to watch. I mean, he's one of the guys that on my there's always guys every year you want to see in person. They hit differently. Like I can't wait to see Luka next week. Is just going to be an absolute show. It always is. It's always a vibe. LeBron this week was that way.
All of East Cleveland, man.
Yeah, me and all the Slovenians. Giannis is like the environment is that way, obviously, and then there's like some guys that aren't like your obvious superstars. Shea is kind of that budding superstar class. You just want to see him. Like I was really excited to see Paolo Banchero like last week, and it wasn't like a super great game from him, but watching him and Mobley go head to head in person was fun. Shea is like one of those guys. Just the year he's having, I'm very excited to see him up close. All right, that is going to be it for this Friday episode of Locked On Cavs. We'll be back recapping these weekend games. At least I will be on Saturday morning doing a Cavs Kings recap for you, and getting you any notes from post game to get you ready for the Thunder game, and we'll recap the Thunder game first thing on Monday. Thanks for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. This episode was, as always, produced by Jake Stevens. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Chris. That's Evan, everyone. Be well. I will talk to you tomorrow morning.